What's going on, everybody? Good afternoon. And I know I've said a few times now that I would shelve the offensive coordinator talk until we made some kind of a decision, made a hire, or interviewed somebody I hadn't talked about yet. But I got a few requests from people to take all of the candidates that I looked at and put them in a list from my favorite to my least favorite, or at the very least, most interested in to least interested in. So I went ahead and did that. I thought to myself, and I was like, that's actually probably a pretty good idea. I think that people should watch the videos to see how I feel about it because just putting it in a list doesn't really tell you anything. But I already uploaded all the videos, so it can be fun to just quickly go through a list rather than have to detail out every little step. All those videos still up on the channel, by the way. I'll throw them into a playlist. If they're not already in a playlist, I'll throw them in a playlist a little bit later because I think we're at the end of the series now. But yeah, we're going to go in order from my favorite to my least favorite. Now, this list includes everybody that I looked at. So it does include some guys that are off the table. It does include a few guys that are already elsewhere or otherwise occupied. So understand that I know that we can't get Hank Fraley, but I still wanted to list him because I felt like it was appropriate given he was one of the 30 guys that I looked at. So going in order from 1 to 30, favorite to least favorite. We're starting with my top guy, Frank Reich. This was my number one. Still is my number one. He's doesn't seem that interested in coaching in football anymore, but he brings all the things to the table that I wanted in this hire. Number two is Clint Kubiak, who obviously still could happen. Haven't heard much about Kubiak recently, but to me, he still combines a lot of the traits that I like for the next Seahawks OC. I want Kubiak as the play caller. He's done it before. He's produced some results that I think are encouraging. And to me, he is kind of the slam dunk choice at this point for this team, especially with Fraley off the board. Number three, Doug Peterson. Again, experience, knowledge, understanding of how to do things in the NFL successfully. And he's going to be a great balancing force on the coaching staff across a young head coach like a Mike McDonald. So those are the things that I really value right now. I make a little bit of an exception with Kubiak. I know he's younger, but I like what he's shown so far, so I make a little bit of an exception there. And I think there's a lot to like outside of just his results. But these, you can see two of my three top guys are old heads. These guys have been around forever. Peterson hasn't been coaching forever, but he's been in football forever, and he's an older guy for sure. So that's something I favored. Number four, Adam Stenavich, probably my favorite of the guys with no play calling experience. There's just so much to like when you read about his experience and the way people talk about him, the way that he's learned under, I think, one of the best coaches in the league in LaFleur. I think that if you look at what LaFleur has created in Green Bay, where he's taken what I think is a pretty average quarterback in Jordan Love and turned him into a great looking quarterback by building an offense almost entirely out of play action screens and rollouts. It's a beautiful thing. And I would hope Stenavich learned from it. I would take the risk on Stenavich. Mike LaFleur would be my next guy. Talked about him extensively previously, but to me, LaFleur, you've got various traits of good OCs in the league right now. You've got him learning under Shanahan. You've got him learning under McVay. And you've got him with a little bit of play calling experience as well. It hasn't been great, but there's reason to believe that it could be good. Like he was calling plays for the Rams against the Seahawks in Week 18, and I thought he did a great job. So LaFleur's my five. Number six, Frank Smith, another guy without play calling experience, which is dicey, but the stuff he's learned, hopefully, from McDaniel is so good and so valuable. That really powerful, really varied, really interesting, really fun rushing attack that he has over there. I would take the risk to get a piece of that running game. I've been a fan. I've been a proponent for getting guys with experience play calling, but for certain things, I'll make an exception. Number seven, we're going to add Bobby Slowick to the mix here. Despite my reservations, I suspect that this is a very sharp guy who is kind of getting unfairly blamed for a ton of injuries that Houston had last year. They had a bad offensive line, and by the end of the year, they had bad wide receivers. I don't love the fit, like I said in yesterday's video, but to be perfectly honest, that is mostly because the offensive line is bad, and you could hire Slowick and fix the offensive line. What's wrong with that? Number 8, Mark Trestman, which I know seems a little bit weird, but he has so much NFL experience, so much experience in football, so much time spent calling plays that I really feel like if you gave him good personnel in at the quarterback spot and the receiver spot and the running back spot, he would make ultimately good results. It might not be anything over the top, but I think it's safe, and I appreciate that. Number 9, Mike Kafka. I just really like what he did in 2022 with the Giants. I think that's reflective of who he is as an offensive mind, and I'm not too worried about the last 2 years. Number 10, we got Tanner Engstrand. Again, this guy's probably off the table, but I still wanted to throw him out there anyway. The stuff that he is hopefully learning from Ben Johnson is great. It's just the fact of the matter that he hasn't done it yet. Number 11, Josh Grizzard. Really, really small amount of experience, which I know is scary. Just a passing game coordinator, but I love that Tampa Bay offense. I love the way it's put together, making Baker Mayfield look better than he is. I want an offense like what Grizzard and Cohen put together in Tampa Bay. That is the kind of thing I want to build. Make life as easy as possible for your quarterback. Number 12, recently hired as head coach of the Cowboys, Brian Schottenheimer. Lot of experience calling plays, had success in Seattle before. I know some people really aren't into this one because it feels like a retread. It feels like recycling, but to me, the results he produced were good, and things got derailed for reasons that had very little to do with him. Number 13, Wes Phillips, Vikings guy. It feels like it's mostly O'Connell in Minnesota, but I love O'Connell. Would not hate getting a guy who is learning under O'Connell these last few years, but he doesn't jump off the page to me in any obvious way the way that Stenavich or Smith do. They don't bring those clear, obvious traits to the table that I desire, even compared to a guy like Grizzard. Hank Fraley's my number 14, again off the table. The offensive line stuff alone would be valuable, and you could probably find a way to mitigate his shortcomings, but I do think there would be shortcomings. He doesn't strike me as the kind of guy who would have a very sophisticated passing attack, and you would probably need to make another hire to mitigate that, so that has to be factored in. Number 15, Mark Brunell. He's done great work so far. I just don't think it's enough for me to put him higher than this, but it would be a great hometown hire. People would definitely circle the wagons around getting a Husky legend on the Seahawks, I think. And look, somebody made this point in my comments a while ago. As a quarterback, you kind of have experience calling plays. So the fact that he's never called plays before is a little bit mitigated by that. So a little bit easier to get over. T. Martin was my 16th. Great resume, great career so far for T. Martin, but it doesn't necessarily feel like anything that's leading to an offensive coordinator play calling spot that will actually be successful yet. So I'm not quite at the point where I'm over the moon about it, but it wouldn't be a bad idea. I just kind of look at his breadth of experience so far, and I kind of feel like I wish he would spend a couple years under some genius offensive mind at this point. Number 17, Brian Greasy, kind of the same idea as Brunell without the fun factor, but it's the same basic concept. Quarterbacks have experience calling plays by default, and he's learning under Shanahan, and the quarterback stuff in San Fran has been great the last 3 years. Number 18, Matt Nagy. There's just something very underwhelming about him when you try to size him up, but experienced play calling, has done some good things in this league. Andy Reid guy. It would feel like a little bit of a retread, so I docked it, but it's still not bad, I don't think. Number 19, I went with Chip Kelly. It would be fun. It would be entertaining. It would probably produce some really, really good results, but I don't think it outweighs the really bad stuff, and ultimately I think that he and McDonald would not get along at all, and, I mean, we already kind of had that problem last year. Theoretically, I don't know for sure. Felt like McDonald and Grubb didn't love each other. Number 20, Grant Udinsky, and I'm sorry, I know some people are really circling the wagons around Udinsky. I know there's a lot of people out there who are like, man, I didn't get it at first, but now I do. I can't do it, man. I can't do it. I appreciate the idea, but this is a 28-year-old kid. He's significantly younger than me. I just can't do it. I just can't get amped for a guy with minimal experience, because it's not like Grant Udinsky played in the NFL at quarterback for even a 5-year period. He wasn't an NFL quarterback. So I can't even give him that benefit of the doubt. And what I see with him is kind of a hire that you make when there are no other people who want to work. So I know some people are into this. I know there are people who will be excited if we get him, but I'm just not there yet. 21, Aaron Cromer. A lot of experience in this league. Did a little bit of play calling, but for the most part, it just kind of seems like he's best left as an offensive line coach, and that's it. Number 22, Byron Leftwich. Just real concern that what happened in Tampa Bay under Leftwich's quote unquote tutelage was all Brady and Bruce Arians and very little Leftwich. We'll never know if that's true for sure, but it feels like it. Number 23, we got Ken Dorsey. The way things ended in Buffalo, I can't get that out of my head, even though his resume is objectively pretty good. I just, it bothers me that Buffalo got so much better right after he got fired. Number 24, Josh McCown. Too many layers between him and O'Connell for me to feel good about hiring McCown as a play caller yet. The idea of him as a quarterback having play calling experience by some definition rings true, but my fear is we're just tapping too deep into that Minnesota coaching staff. You know, you're getting through Phillips, you're getting through Udinsky, you're getting through McCown. At a certain point, you're just like, wait a minute, doesn't the brain flow kind of get choked off at some point? So I didn't feel the same way about McCown that I even did about a guy like Greasy or Brunell. Thomas Brown, 25, just a very underwhelming but not terrible candidate. There wasn't really much that I could find to get excited about. I feel bad for him because he got thrown in over his head last season, but I'm not into it. Number 26, Alex Van Pelt, doesn't really have good results on the resume. Did a little bit of play calling last year and in some previous years, but for the most part, just another hire that would like not be terrible, but I'm just kind of bored by the idea. Number 27, Jake Peets. I know there was some buzz around this one at first. I know it's kind of gone away now, but I just found him super uninspiring. The resume is not that good. And for me, Jake Peets would be the hire that you make. Again, it's one of those when nobody else will take it. Let's just go in-house. Let's just go get somebody who's already in the building and let's get it over with. Number 28, Brad Idzik. Feels like too much too soon for me. Feels like at a certain point as you go down the line of a young upstart good coach, you start to run into diminishing returns on what the guys are retaining down the line. So if you're looking at a guy like Canales, I just don't know if things have leaked far enough down the line to get to Idzik. And it just feels like too much too soon, maybe in a year or two. Number 29, Tom Arth. Don't really know why this guy was getting OC buzz. I know he was, but there's nothing on the resume that indicates to me. The only thing he's done impressive in his career, to my knowledge, is he got pretty decent football out of Justin Fields for 6 games earlier this year. Other than that, the resume is just kind of like whatever. Some of it's really bad, by the way. And then last place is Eric Bieniemy, coming off that atrocious year in college. I can't do anything else. He's an older guy. Everybody passes him over every offseason. There's no interest on the part of the NFL. And the one year he did get an opportunity to call plays in Washington, he put a ridiculous amount on the shoulders of not rookie, but second year Sam Howell. And there's just way too much here that's not appealing. So Bieniemy's my last, and that's it. So that's the list. Let me know what you guys think. I know that this doesn't really do a fully great job of going through why I feel the way I feel, but if you watch the previous videos on these guys, you'll get the picture. All right, I'll see you guys later. Go Hawks. Let me know what you think, and possibly more videos later today. If not, keep an eye out on Twitch, and go Hawks.